Well, the Circuit of the Americas welcomes Mustang Challenge for the second time in 2 years on the Lone Star Le Mans schedule here, supporting the FIA World Endurance Championship. The capital of Texas once again has thrown itself open to motor racing, and they know their onions around here when it comes particularly to sports car racing. Pretty much in the heart of the great state of Texas, with 3.4 miles, 20 corners, 5.5 kilometers if you prefer, on a day that we'll see WEC later on. And the crowd was streaming in this morning, even as early as just on 8 o'clock when we turned up. Action areas, well, big red, the top of turn 1, turn 11, heavy braking area going downhill there. And then the 12, 13, 14, 15 sort of area as well, coming off that climbing and falling back straight where the cars reach their maximum velocity. I was hoping that we were going to get a fully dry race, but as you can see down in the pit lane, there are some teams that are still working on their cars as rain is falling again, as it was yesterday. Pit lane starts for 3 cars, which I'll get to in just a moment. It's the Ford Mustang Challenge, live from COTA with Ford. Built Ford proud. And in the Ford Racing Global broadcast with me, John Hindhaugh, today is Arjuna Kankapati. After an absolute masterclass, Arjuna has come back. He'll be loving this because that was a stunning drive for him to an almost 20-second win yesterday, and the rain is just starting to fall again to complicate matters.
And while yesterday's race was declared wet by race control, John, which meant that all of our Mustang Dark Horses were required to put on the Michelin wet compound of tire, doesn't seem like that's been the case just yet, and so those 3 cars have elected to switch onto those Michelin wet compound of tires. Going to be very interesting to see how it plays out, because we saw just how much movement there was from the drivers at the start of the race. Lack of practice in these conditions, there was so much uncertainty for them, and guess what, now they get to replicate that again for another 45-minute dash.
And those 3 cars were being worked on after the time they're allowed to be, so it will be pit lane starts for, and this is key for the Dark Horse Legends battle, Alfonso Diaz, one of the top runners. It will also be Colin Harrison, who will be starting from the pit lane in the number 21, and also in number order, the number 22, Devin Anderson, who should have started on the front row of the grid. With that in mind, and the rain intensifying, have they played an absolute blinder? We'll find out in a moment. Here's how they should have lined up, how they qualified. On row 8, Stephen Weiser for NV Autosport and local man, and Joe Derricks for Robert Noaker Racing, 10 and 63 in 16th and 15th. Both Dark Horse Legends. Paolo Salvatore for Torre Racing in 14th position. He's 5th in the Legends, and he's got 4th, Tom Tate, alongside him, Competition Motors. Perhaps now just beginning to lose touch with the top 3 in the Legends Championship battle in that number 8 car. On row 6, Tate Pritt for Automatic Racing in the number 98 car, and Alex Bashura, 3rd in the DH Legends, qualifying but leading the championship by a reduced margin after his 3rd place finish in the Spark Performance 33. Not happy with the balance of the car in those wet, dry conditions yesterday. He's not going to be happy to see the rain falling this morning. Row 5 is both in the pits. That's Tech Sports, Colin Harrison and Alfonso Diaz, the 2 teammates then in the pit lane to start with a change of Michelin tyres. Robert Noaker Racing's Rick Casey, who drove through the field yesterday, will start on the outside of row number 4 in the number 91 Mustang Dark Horse R, with McCumbee Macaleer Racing Zachary Lee in an all-white car this weekend, the number 48, not yet in his silver bullet colours, the 7th place starter. The top 6 are all Dark Horse runners. Paley Motorsports' Will Lucas in 6th position. A good outing yesterday in his first points scoring Mustang Challenge Racing. Was with us at the non-point scoring invitational, and he's alongside Sam Paley, his team owner and team leader, in the 26. And then the front of the grid is Sandy Satulo is alongside Will Lucas, and then Sam Paley, Marcus Vento, Devin Anderson and Robert Noaker. the yellow lights have stayed on the Dark Horse safety car, and as yesterday, we've actually started the countdown here as I was getting to the front rows of the grid, but we have not gone green. So there will be one further formation laps, but we're down to 44.5 minutes already. And this is great news for the 3 cars starting in the pit lane, because the majority of the field then, Arjuna, has not gone through at racing pace, so they will not have to make up a gap. They're going to be on the back of the field when we go back green, whether that's this lap or the one after. That's a real break for all of those 3 drivers that we mentioned. Devin Anderson, along with the 2 Tech Sport drivers, Alfonso Diaz and Colin Harrison.
And clearly the team, John, either working a bit late like you called out, or maybe there was something specific they saw that required that extra work, that saw them require the pit lane start. And this is ideal for Diaz. Let's talk championship for Dark Horse Legends. After yesterday's race, he is now only 100 points behind Alex Bashura. And we were talking about this in that first race of the day yesterday, John. This is a championship which very likely is going to go all the way down to the wire at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And for Bashura, for Diaz, for Lee, they cannot afford one slip up. This is a golden opportunity for Diaz to drive his way back through the field and really stake his claim for the championship.
Yeah, and Alex Bashura will not be disappointed in those decisions either from the Tech Sport team. Now, it could be an absolutely blinding tactical decision, or it could backfire. We've seen this in races before when people have either swapped tyres or decided to come into the pit lane during a race. We don't have any mandatory pit stops in Mustang Challenge or indeed any of the developmental series for IMSA. My goodness, this is going to make what was already an interesting battle in Dark Horse Legends even more worth watching, and it was where the action was yesterday, right at the front of that Dark Horse Legends field. Should say that the cars are absolutely identical, no difference in performance potential in these cars. It's the same spec, and indeed Will Lucas, who's stepping into his first Mustang Challenge weekend, races in the Mustang Cup, which is almost a level below what we're seeing here, but it's exactly the same car. They race on different tyres with our colleagues over at USAC. And the championship is made for people perhaps coming from track days or other early forms of their motorsport careers. And in fact, you can actually split the weekend. There's effectively 2 championships within that, a Saturday championship and a Sunday championship, for want of a better word. And and in that, it's been 7 race victories for Will this year. He has sampled Mustang Challenge. He came to the Circuit de la Sarthe at Le Mans in June for the highly successful and brilliant, it was just brilliant, 40 cars around Circuit de la Sarthe, including on race day morning, and Will was a part of that invitational. So that's how things stand as we are lining up side by side, coming down to turn number 20. The engine notes of the V8 start to rattle between the grandstands here, and we are ready to go. Hello to you all if you're tuning in on the Ford Racing YouTube channel or on IMSA.tv, or indeed even on our player for video on IMSARadio.com. Controlling the front of the field, Robert Noecker was waiting, and now goes, and Marcus Ventos in second place, had to try and cover through as he went through. Sam Paley, of course, promoted into third because of the fact that Devin Anderson and all 3 of the Tech Sport cars, in fact, were in the pits and starting from the pit lane, but benefiting from the fact that we didn't go green first time by. Windscreen wipers are on. That rain is getting worse. Is this an absolute tactical genius move from the Tech Sport team, Arjuna?
Well, straight away, Alex Bashura and Zachary Lee started squabbling down out of turn 1 through the S's, so going to be very curious how quickly Alfonso Diaz can close that margin to his other championship rivals fighting at the front of the field. And looks like Bashura now getting challenged up the inside. That might be from Will Lucas, with Zachary Lee in front of him as they'll plunge down the hill for the very first time.
Through the flat out kick, a turn 10, a big sideways moment. That's the number 91 car. That's going to be into the wall. It's into the wall, and it'll be a full course yellow. And that's Britt Casey, who had a super race through the field yesterday. And someone else is going off as well further around the circuit. Britt Casey is in the wall early, and that's Bashura. Bashura has gone off, coming out of turn number 10, and that is our Dark Horse Legends Championship leader, who has gone into the wall. The championship's wide open. Britt Casey's car is damaged, and he was up on the wall, on the curb coming out of turn 9 as you crest the rise. It's difficult there in the dry, to be honest, because the car goes a little bit light, and add that to the wet and slippery painted curbs, and Britt Casey, who raced immaculately yesterday to come through the field and get a very decent finish. Well, his race is over before it's really even begun. And the cars will pack up behind our Dark Horse street car, which is serving as our safety car again this weekend. Yes, that is a street car, not a race car. Well, Britt Casey will be disappointed, but what about Alex Bashura, Spark Performance driver? Bashura was offline earlier on in the piece. And was he alongside? He was. Bashura was alongside Britt Casey, who must have thought, I've got it. I don't have it. It was 2 or 3 times that he looked to have grabbed it back, but the rear tyres spinning up with all of that torque. And the traction control in these cars is your right foot and what you feel from your backside, and then having made the position up, heavy impact to driver's left after hitting the green paint. But Bashura is rolling again, shedding pieces of bodywork. Now, this is crucial for Bashura to try and pick off a few of the Dark Horse Legends. He's come into the pit lane to see if he can have some remedial work done. But this is going to be a long safety car because there is significant damage to the 3-layer steel barrier on driver's left coming out of turn number 11 onto the back straight. Not the start, absolutely not the start that Bashura wants. I mean, the worst points he can take will be 7th, but that would be a big dent with his 2 championship rivals potentially outscoring him. And this, it's an absolute free kick for Zachary Lee in the number 48 Immaculata Racing team.
If results stand as they are, Zachary Lee would, I think, take the championship lead by 10 points, John. It's very, very marginal. The other thing I did notice from Bashura is, as he was losing that rear end, Devin Anderson had already closed back up to him after starting at the back of the grid. So clearly the Tech Sport team have got something dialed into that car. Alfonso Diaz is up to 4th in the Dark Horse Legends class as well, as we see the rather sorry sight, unfortunately, for Britt Casey as the car gets loaded on the flatbed. John, Bashura hit the wall quite square, so I'm hoping there's not going to be too much damage, but they're putting it up on the jacks right now, and they aren't working as urgently as I think they would if they thought it was going to be a simple fix.
Well, completely rearranged the beautiful quad tailpipes on the ball and titanium exhaust. Side by side coming out of turn 9 over the brow, but racing room given by Bashura. He wasn't the cause of Britt Casey's accident in terms of any contact. Britt spun up the back wheels 1, 2, 3 times, and then with full opposite, he's on the lock stops there, he wasn't getting that back, but slick Michelin racing tyres and very damp, slippery conditions getting worse. And then, having survived that moment, a sideways exit from turn number 11 for our Dark Horse leader, championship points leader, in that olive green and orange number 33 Wine Company Motorsports machine. Yes, and titanium sparks coming from the left rear as the baller muffler was on the ground. They contribute to the great sounds. They are having a look at the right rear of Bashura's car. Right now, if he goes a lap down, unless there's other issues, he's not going to get any better than 7th. But he will, if they can get that car out, Arjuna, they will put him out, because you're saying that we could change the championship lead in Dark Horse Legends by 10 points here. 10 points would be the difference between 7th and 6th in Dark Horse Legends. So we could yet see something else happen. And of course, Zachary Lee has got to get to the end. Alfonso Diaz, who we believe on wet weather Michelin tyres, along with Colin Harrison and Devin Anderson, his Tech Sport teammates, is up to 22, the 21 and the 15, we believe, are on the wet weather tyres. Now, they didn't want to see a safety car early on because they wanted to use their grip advantage. But right now, the best of them is Devin Anderson, who's moved up to 7th, which is 6th in Dark Horse. And he has been lapping very quickly indeed and carving his way through traffic. His advantage is he can go offline. And I think the rain's getting worse. I think the rain's getting worse, Arjuna.
I agree with you. And John, I was looking at Britt Casey. I'm not 100% sure if those are slick tires. They do look like they've got the distinctive grooves that would label them as wet. So it would be interesting if anyone on pit lane could maybe send us a message and give us that update. Those are coming off Bashura's car. I feel somewhat confident in saying, John, that those are wet tires because I see the groove. Right.
Okay, so in which case was it just the fact that the guys at Texpo weren't ready in time to get the guys out, having had to change in the pit lane? We'll speak to our Ford contacts down in the paddock and see if we can find out who started on wets and who started on slicks, or whether it was a simple decision. I didn't see the race, and you commented on this, I didn't see the race being called as a wet race at the start. No, pit lane starts, green flag, full course yellow. Just looking at the race control transcript. If it had been called as a wet race, absolutely everyone would have had to have been mandated to be on wet weather tyres. The sad sight of Britt Casey's 91 coming back on the roll back on the flatbed. Britt Casey out of the car, by the way. The medical vehicle was there. Still working on the side of the circuit. Right, hearing now from the pit lane, and thank you to Chris Ward of Ford Racing. It's only $5. Thank you, Chris. Everybody started on wets, so that answers that question. No action, by the way, for the spin 4 Britt Casey, the number 91. They were close, Bashir and he close together, but absolutely racing room asked for and given from both of those drivers. It's absolutely teeming down now. Well, the good news is if everybody started on wets, we won't have to stop the race to bring people in.
Absolutely. Also looked like, John, Alex Bashura got out of his car. So is there too much damage? Do they not think it's worth going back out? At the end of the day, what it does mean is I inputted the positions into my spreadsheet. I didn't trust my mental calculator. At this point, Bashura and Lee are tied on point. It is going to come down to the fastest lap point. If Zachary Lee does get the fastest lap in this race and wins, he'll have a 10-point advantage heading into those final 2 races in Charlotte.
He's got a 2:56.849, and that is the fastest lap of the Legends. The Dark Horse safety car lights are out. That is a road car. Yes, we've got the lights on it, but that is the road car on which all of these racing cars, the Dark Horse R's, are based, and there is a huge crossover. The Dark Horse, the top of the substantive Mustang global range from Ford. There is a GTD as well, but that one is a little bit more exclusive. But it's a heck of a lot of bang for your buck. And we can get them in right-hand drive in the UK as well. Hello, Ford UK. Green flag, 30.5 minutes to go. And Noaker now with trails of spray coming from behind the Michelin wets as he goes up 11 stories in height to Big Red, turn 1. Flicks it in left-handed, side-by-side behind Marcus Vento and Sam Paley with Sandy Satulo, who gave us such great entertainment yesterday. Will Lucas now up into 5th position, top 5 the Dark Horse. And then it's Dark Horse legend leader Zachary Lee in 6th position. His total focus now, Arjuna, must be to get that number 48 car home. Nobody's going to beat that 2:56.8 now, because the track, even if it stops raining now, is not going to be dry enough for anybody to improve their lap times. I'll be interested to see at the end of this first flying lap after the safety car what we get down to, but I'm going to suggest that it'll be a good 5 or 6 seconds slower than what we've seen so far. Robert Neuecker, no surprise, has taken the fastest lap in Dark Horse with a 53.837. But surely now, Zachary Lee, with Devin Anderson and Tate Pritt behind him, both Dark Horse runners, he has just got to stay out of trouble, side by side. And that is a battle for position further down the field. That is Devin Anderson. And was that Sandy Satulo who's dropped back into his clutches as well? Was that the number 7? It looked like it.
I think Satulo might actually be putting the pressure up towards Sam Paley as well. Vento having a much better start to the race than he did yesterday. Started second and dropped down to 6th within the opening couple of laps. I think for Zachary Lee, he's also going to be looking for where Alfonso Diaz comes. We're seeing Devin Anderson really make use of the changes on that 22 Tech Sport car after the pit lane start to have worked his way back up into the top 5 already, John. This is really promising for him as he attacks the back of Paley, who, after a second place finish yesterday, will be feeling very happy with his return to this Mustang Challenge Series.
Do you know, I could walk out the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre and into the pit lane and grab the Tech Sport guys. They are literally just a few yards away to my left. I wonder if they just put the car on a more wet bias setting and slackened off some of the Multimatic DSSV shock settings and things like that. Maybe even uncoupled the anti-roll bars or softened them off on cars to give them a better wet run across the line. Vento and Paley together. Vento in the Valvoline car, sitting in second place. Robert Neuecker has gone through and completely disregard what I said about times not improving, because both Robert Neuecker and Zachary Lee have gone faster than they did early on, with the wet weather tyres now presumably getting up to their operating parameters. 2:29.7 for our leader, and in the Dark Horse it's 2:36.744. But at the moment, Zachary Lee doing what he needs to do in the McCumbee McAleer Racing number 48 white this weekend. Car got damaged last time out, and they haven't had time to wrap the spare car or the repaired car into his signature mirrored silver colour. Neuecker not getting away. Now the side-by-side battle for 4th and 5th. Sandy Satulo and Devin Anderson. The 7 and 22 Robert Neuecker Racing in Tech Sport cars. They are still side-by-side through the kink of 10. That takes a bit of bravery and some confidence in the drivers around you, with Will Lucas just having dropped back a position, back into 6th though, learning about racing at this level. Oh, and gets a little bit of a rub onto the left rear of Sandy Satulo. Those three battling for 4th, 5th and 6th as they're on the back straight now. 26.5 minutes to go.
One of the things that Will Lucas is having to get to grips with is a slight change in tyre compound. The car itself is the same, but the Mustang Cup runs a slightly different compound of tyre, and so maybe that's something else that he's got to be adjusting to, not just the competition and the drivers that he's going wheel to wheel with now. This, by the way, a superb move, and really shows the confidence that Devin Anderson had to just carve his way and slam the door shut, coming over the top of the crest. He's very, very comfortable as we close in on this race being complete.
Yeah, that was a turn 9, and I just wonder whether that might be looked at. Did he have all 4 Michelins over the white line? Straddled that bright orange, almost a rhomboid-shaped pyramid, put there as an anti-cut device, mainly for the World Endurance Championship prototype cars, who run very, very low at the ground. They can't do that. In fact, even the Mon GT3 cars that we'll see later on today, where, by the way, history has been made with the Ford Mustangs of Proton Racing starting the fast Fords, locking out the front row of the grid. And they've been on it all weekend. Very, very good indeed for them. We'll have coverage for that over on our sister service of RS1 via radio.co.uk. If you want to join us for that 6 hours later on. Ford having a good weekend here. under 25 minutes to go and settling into some kind of rhythm now. But Robert Noecker not increasing his lead. Oh, no, he did increase his lead last time around. Sorry, what am I talking about? Sam Paley did a 2:33 and Robert Noecker 2:30. 3 seconds the difference, and again he shot off into the distance, 8.5 seconds. But the battle is on for third, fourth and fifth. One step on the podium, 3 very determined drivers. Make that 4, because Will Lucas is not losing any ground at all there to the more experienced drivers in this competition. And that was a good point that Arjuna Kangaparty made a moment or two ago about Will getting used to a completely different tyre. Zachary Lee in the all-white number 48 goes onto the back straight. He is leading the Dark Horse Legends. Will Lucas has got past him. Devin Anderson went past him earlier on, rather. So he's now down in 7th. Tate Pritt is with him now, and he can afford to leave him and let him go, except for the fact that Alfonso is right there as well. Now, Alfonso Diaz has just put the best Dark Horse Legends lap in at a 35 flat and off. Oh my goodness, that's going to be another yellow, I think. That is the number 63 of Joe Dedericks, Robert Noecker Racing. He's on home ground this weekend. He'd worked his way up to 4th in the Dark Horse Legends, and he was pressuring Paolo Salvatore, who's in another podium position. Came side by side into the braking area at the end of that 1.2 kilometre last back straight, and oh my goodness, somehow managed to navigate his way through 2 or 3 other cars. So that would have been Alfonso Diaz and a Pritt that he went between, and he's hit the barriers pretty hard there. Full course yellow is out, I think. See as they come across the line for the double yellows waving. Double yellows are stationary, but yes, I'm not seeing these drivers slowing down that much. There is the Mustang Challenge safety car. As I say, that, believe it or not, is a road car. That's how they come, without the yellow flashing beacons, although I'm sure that the Ford Racing Options would supply you with one if you wanted, and the decals if you wanted to have the exact copy. So 22 minutes to go, Arjuna, and this is not good news for Zachary Lee, because right behind him now, Alfonso Diaz got past Tate Pritt just before that yellow came out, and so the Dark Horse Legends are 7th and 8th, and Zachary doesn't have the fastest lap, 10 points. This was so close at the end of the back straight. Braked a tiny bit too late, does have ABS, but even ABS can't overcome the physics of trying to pull that Mustang up. Joe Dedericks in the 63, he realised he was in trouble, went across the inside and aimed between the 2 cars. That's actually, Arjuna, really heads-up driving from Joe.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think he too locked into the fight, missed his braking zone by just probably 10 or 15 meters, but that's enough in these conditions to put you out. And like you say, just navigating it as safely as he can. And you stole the words out of my mouth when it came to Zachary Lee and Alfonso Diaz. This is worst case scenario. Zachary Lee was hoping that Diaz would get stuck a little bit more, fighting his way through the DHL field. If Alfonso Diaz can move his way to the front of this race, John, he will take the championship lead going into the Circuit of the Americas, but only by 20 points. We would have the top 3 split by about 50 points with 2 races left to go. If it finishes like this, the top 3 drivers will be split by 10 points.
Oh my goodness. So Alex Bashura could potentially have come in leading and go home in 3rd. Is that what you're saying there?
No, he would technically still be either tied for the lead or 2nd. So that's the worst that it would be, yes.
Whilst we're under this full course yellow, so we're not missing any racing. Every race, we highlight 3 drivers, either from a single team or that have stories to tell. This is our Ford Racing team update for race 2 here. Sam Paley, and Paley Motorsport is one of our featured teams here, bringing 2 cars this weekend to swell the field to 16 entries. Sam Paley running in a very handy second place, and now that 10.6 seconds as was will disappear, so he'll have a chance to have another go at Robert Noaker on the restart. His team is running Will Lucas up from the Mustang Cup for his first weekend of Mustang Challenge. Will be right on the back of the Dark Horse top 6 in 6th position. And the other car that we wanted to have a look at was the number 21 of Colin Harrison. Now, Colin Harrison, the reason I picked that tech sport car before we knew that they were going to be starting in the pit lane was Colin fought his way through the field very well yesterday. He's had to start from the pit lane, but he has moved up from the back to let me see, 11th position. That's still 8th in the Dark Horse. But now, of course, with the field all the way squashed all the way back up again, that does mean that whatever changes Tech Sport did may well be able to be exploited by Colin. It is exceptionally wet. That's our Ford Racing team update, and we'll have 2 more for you in the last 2 races of the season coming up at the start of next month as the Ford Mustang Challenge for 2025 rounds up its season, supporting NASCAR on the Charlotte Roval. And there's been a bit of testing up there, and I think we're going to have some fun speaking to 1 or 2 of the drivers who have been up there. Also potentially going into a little bit of an evening time. We'll see exactly when we get the timetable confirmed. But races on a Saturday of that race weekend up at Charlotte, and then we'll have our Champions Brunch on Sunday, where the trophies will be handed out. 73 Fahrenheit in the air, 79 on the track. That's 23 Celsius and 27 Celsius for our international audience, of which we know there are many this Sunday. The UK, just after 5 in Central Europe on their time zones. 6 hours we are behind you here in Texas on Central Summertime. Not looking too summery here. You would not believe that this was the same week from when I turned up on Tuesday afternoon. Temperatures well into triple digits in the Fahrenheit. And hot and sticky all week until Friday. The Hardy fans have come prepared. They know to expect everything here. And the rain ponchos are on in the grandstands. So coming down the last 16 minutes here, and with recovery almost complete, Arjuna, it will only be whether there's any further remedial work going on the barriers on the exit of turn number 11.
And it does look as though the crane is there and just putting things in place, so maybe a lap or 2 more. John, we did talk about this yesterday, though. After a couple of tough rounds, both at Road America and VIR, where attrition did play its part, it was very impressive yesterday, especially in the conditions that we had, the greasy conditions the drivers had no practice in. To have all 16 cars reach the checkered flag was immense. And I think what we're seeing today is more challenging conditions than what they had yesterday. They would have woken up this morning, felt pretty comfortable that, you know, we're in for a dry race. You and I were talking before we went on air and thinking it would be the same thing. And then suddenly thrown back into this position of having to adjust, to adapt, and to figure out what the track's offering them on the fly. And as we always say, that is the most difficult thing for a racing driver. When you get to a corner and it's totally different from what it was a lap ago.
Safety vehicles scattering back to their positions behind the safety barrier. I think we're going to go green next time around. That was very well choreographed. Good morning to Tom Marshallek, who is himself a Mustang owner, if memory serves, who is tuned in and cheering on his friend Sam Paley, who we've just been looking at in the Paley Motorsport number 26 on the Ford Racing team update. second place for Sam at the moment. Again, if I remember rightly, Tom, you're in Ohio. So thank you for joining us this morning. Big day of college football yesterday, second round of the season, and the Austin team were at home. Ranked number 1 this year, didn't get off to a great start, beat 14-7 last week by the Ohio Buckeyes, which will have pleased Tom, I'm sure. Safety car lights are out. We're going to have, I reckon, about a dozen minutes, Arjuna. And this is probably as much pressure as we've seen Robert Noyaker under this weekend. Although it is a single file restart, but with Sam Paley now right up his tailpipe. Sam, very experienced. It will come down to who gets the traction. The worrying thing for all the drivers here will be spinning up those Michelin wet weather tyres as they come out of turn 20 and head up the hill, because if you lose even a half a mile an hour as you're going across the line, that's going to translate into an overtaking opportunity for the cars behind you as you go up the hill in turn 1 Big Red.
And casting my mind back to Road America, Sam Paley showed the grit and determination that you want to see from a racing driver. A big incident in race 1 where he went straight at turn 5 and hit the tire wall at a significant rate of knots. Fortunately, Robert Noyaker Racing actually lent Sam Paley the backup car, and he drove his way through the field in race 2. And so, you know, he's back behind the champion-elect at this point. Robert Noyaker has been almost perfect in 2025 and looking to try and become, as far as I can do from my research, to find from my research, the first IMSA champion, John, to not only win every single race in a season, but to get every single bonus point as well. He's only a couple of events away from being able to claim that accolade.
And there's a point, isn't there, where you think, well, the championships all but one in terms of he's a champion-elect, unless points are taken from him, which is not unheard of in some championships, but we'll not wish that fate on him. But he clearly wants to set his stall out. This is a driver who's thinking career, who's thinking further on than just this year, runs his own team, along with his dad. So we go back to green, and it's exactly 12 minutes. Jumps away, gets the best start again. He was tied up against the pit lane wall. Must have felt there was more grip there. Sam Paley, though, tries to come around the outside. They'll try and do the over and under and cut to the left-hand side, but immediately that's covered by the leader. Side by side behind for third place. This is very tight indeed, and Vento gets a little bit of a touch in that Valvoline car from the Tech Sport. Devin Anderson, number 22, behind him, but they step on the podium we're talking about here, and right in behind him.
Over the top of the crest, this all allowing Devin Anderson his chance to try and work his way into a podium spot, as Will Lucas a little bit slipping and sliding, much like we saw from Britt Casey on the opening lap of the races. There goes the look from Devin Anderson up the inside, down onto the back straightaway, and this might be the chance for Sandy Satullo to get on the power, although also looking now off to his right-hand side as Vento drag races him down this back straightaway. Rooster Tail still being kicked up by these cars. You can see just how difficult that can be, and a squeeze offered by Vento, and Satullo is going to dip back into line. Directly behind Will Lucas, though, is the fight for the DHL race win and potentially some very valuable championship points. Zachary Lee yet to be able to work his way past Alfonso Diaz just yet. got some of this Dark Horse traffic that might actually be tripping them over, and that's going to be interesting. John, how does Zachary Lee try and navigate this situation? He's got Alfonso Diaz all over his gearbox, and then those DH cars in front slowing him down as well.
And that's exactly what he didn't want, isn't it? The Will Lucas car right there, half a second ahead. He managed it really well. The Dark Horse leaders have managed that really well through the season. As they come down to the final corner, side by side at the battle for third, and Sandy Sotelo gets the inside line, gets the power off the corner, at least in the early part, but in the second phase of that front straight through the spray. Here comes the Valvoline car. Will have the outside line though. Is there more grip there? Just squeezing to the middle of the road. The red, white Sandy Sotelo car down the inside. And surely somebody's going to go wide. No, they're both still on the track. Excellent car control. And it's almost three across the track as Will Lucas is joining in the fun as well. Fourth, fifth and sixth absolutely together. Robert Noecker 3 seconds up the road, but the battle is still for just off the podium. Through the S's, Sotelo clearly not worried about moving that car around Arjuna, and goes round the outside at turn 5 and 6. The back end of his number 7 red and white Mustang moving around. But that pushes him up a position. He's in 4th now, Vento in 5th, and Will Lucas in 6th.
What a move, what a battle, but exactly the opposite of what Zachary Lee was hoping to see, because look how much closer now Alfonso Diaz is as they've checked up, and the brake lights illuminate there. Was Zachary Lee just trying to make sure that he wasn't going to get ran into by Diaz going for an offensive lunge? This is now the important drive though, off the corner and down the back straightaway.
And in that battle ahead of them, Marcus Vento has been warned for blocking. I did say that he moved into the middle of the road going up Big Red last time around. That has been, I think, plus another couple of moves, has just been seen by race control and considered moving in response to what the car was doing behind. If you want to defend, you can defend, but you go early. Big, wide entry into turn 12 for the number 15 of Alfonso Diaz in his battle with Zachary Lee, and they've got Tate Pritt coming up behind them as well, but he's not in the same class, but yet that could affect the Dark Horse Legends and who leaves here as the leader. These two drivers battling away. Just joining us, Alex Bashura out early on. Also, Brooke Casey out early on, both on the first racing lap. Conditions worsening as they went to the first green flag lap. Brooke Casey coming off the top of the rise at turn 9 and losing his front end of the car. Alex Bashura lasted another couple of lap corners, got round back to the pits, but Spark Performance deciding to retire the car, and here's more Dark Horse Legends drama as Alfonso Diaz has lost it and he's in the wall. And again, that is just spinning up on the green. That's the pin that signifies you're off the track for the motorcycles, coming out of turn 20 and into the wall on the driver's left there. Now, has he got going again? I think he has. No, he hasn't. He hasn't crossed the line yet. So, Dark Horse Legends, Arjuna with a damaged front right suspension arm for Diaz. Dark Horse Legends has been blown wide open.
And yeah, you can see that car is going to require a trip back to pit lane. Oh, John, I actually saw into turn 12 on that same lap. He had gone a little wide. He was trying to use as much of the track as possible, and that got him into the painted stuff. And guess what happens? You lose your braking performance, and he almost ran into the back of Zachary Lee. He was just pushing. He felt the car underneath him had the speed, and with everything that he had, he was trying to grab the win. But this is the most painful thing in racing, when you've pushed too hard and now you trundle down to pit lane while the rest of the race continues out on track.
So that must have been turn 19 then that happened. I thought it was turn 20. Let's see, as he rotates the car, hits the barriers, drivers left. Yeah, that's the entry to pit lane. My apologies. I thought it was on the front straight when we got the first look at it. That car will go nowhere. Now, this is manna from heaven from Zachary Lee. Cumbie Racing driver in the number 48. He's getting a sack full of points. He hasn't got the fastest lap of the race in his class in Dark Horse Legends. That's Alfonso Diaz, so he'll get those bonus points. Alfonso now has dropped down to 5th. He will go no further down. Joe Dederickx, who hit the wall earlier for Robert Noaker Racing, will be in 6th. And 7th, who came into this weekend leading the championship, the Dark Horse Legends, number 33, Alex Bashura. So 2 of the championship contending trio that we've been talking about all weekend have ended with damage and are out of the top 4 positions. This is a massive points payday for Zachary Lee, but he has to bring the car home from here. And really, he's got no competition in class. 2 Dark Horse cars between himself and Paolo Salvatore, who is racing as a married man for the first time this weekend. The reason he is married is he promised his girlfriend, fiancée I should say, as she was there, Michelle, that should he get onto a podium, they would get married as soon as possible. He got a podium in the first race at VIR. They were married after the second race. Great story. And he is backing that up with a honeymoon 2nd place at the moment. But my goodness me, Zachary Lee will be absolutely smiling from ear to ear in 7th position at the moment. As I say though, Arjuna, he's got to bring it home.
And just looking at his championship, John, he's only had 1 round where he's been outside of the top 5. So Alex Bashura won 5 races in a row to kick off the DHL 2025 campaign, but consistency is what brings you championships. And Bashura and Lee will be tied on points if things hold as they are going into those final 2 races. Alfonso Diaz only 70 points back though, John, which he's by no means out of contention. It's going to come down to the wire. And you were talking about some of the drivers saying Charlotte will be interesting. The word that I have heard is tire management's going to be so difficult there with the heavy cars. For the DHL drivers, they're going to have a lot of learning to do in their practice sessions.
And still the battles rage on with just under 3 minutes to go. Marcus Vento and Will Lucas for 5th and 6th. Will Lucas in his first outing in the darker, multicoloured G-Brook machine. Comes out, tries to get the overlap going into turn number 13. Can't manage to get it done. The lane on the driver's left there is the penalty loop for MotoGP. Hopefully, well, not required to be used here. Although it's not a bad idea, is it? Through they come, through this torturous and technical last third of the lap. And I'll give Will Lucas his due. He is not frightened to have that number 34 Paley Motorsport car moving around underneath him as Robert Noaker has gone on to his final lap. Right now, he's got just under 3 miles to keep his perfect 2025 season alive. White flag being shown for this battling duo in 5th and 6th. There goes Zachary Lee across the line as well. Colin Harrison, one of our Ford Racing featured drivers in the team update. He's just done his fastest lap of the race in conditions that are really very, very tricky. Robert Noaker then, another clean sweep weekend on the cards here. He's halfway around the lap. We're keeping our eyes on the battles further down the field. Devon Anderson has been caught by Sandy Sotolo, and that's for the last step of the box in the overall and Dark Horse categories. Behind them, another great scrap going on between Vento and Lucas for 5th and 6th. Just maybe a drier line beginning to show on the far side of the circuit. That, generally speaking, over by turns 9, 10 and 11, that's where the rain comes in first. And once again, Will Lucas goes to the outside to try and get the power on earlier onto that 1.2 kilometre long back straight. But he slides the back end of his Mustang, almost gets the overlap. He's to the rear quarter panel, then drops back in to get the draft, to get the slipstream. How he can see anything, I've no clue with the spray that's been thrown up. It's much worse than our cameras actually show. He'll go to the outside again. Defensive driving from Vento, but he went nice and early, wasn't moving in response to the car behind him. That's fine. Has been warned for blocking, remember. Big slide by Will. He's using that right-hand pedal to use all of the horsepower of that glorious sounding V8. Ahead of them, third place is still not been settled, with Devin Anderson has his mirrors full of Sandy Satullo, Tech Sport versus Robert Noeka Racing. At the moment, it's Robert Noeka Racing leading from Pearly Motorsport and Tech Sport in third. But can Robert Noeka get another one of his cars onto the podium? He's going to come round to complete his 16th lap. 15th lap, excuse me. He crosses the line. The checkered flag is out. He remains perfect. And he is provisionally now the 2025 Ford Mustang Dark Horse champion, with 2 races still to go. Sam Paley fights his way through to second for Paley Motorsport. Devin Anderson holds on by half a second to third. That's your top 3. R&R, Paley Motorsport and Tech Sport. Then is Sandy Satullo from Will Lucas, who did get 5th position right at the end, with a tiny little mistake then from Marcus Vento. Ooh, was the contact coming out of 15? That might well be looked at. It was either a very big slide or a tiny touch between those two, but on the timing screen as it stands right now, Will Lucas has Pearly Motorsports number 34 Mustang Dark Horse R up in the 5th position. Zachary Lee has converted his good running into a win and maximum points for his finish, at least in 7th overall in Dark Horse Legends, which will give him a share of the Dark Horse Legends lead in the championship. Tom Tate just pipped Paolo Salvatore for 2nd position. Oh, that's interesting, because Tom Tate was in 4th position coming in this weekend, and with others faltering ahead of him, that might bring him back into the conversation. We'll get the spreadsheet out in a moment. Paolo Salvatore gets his 2nd podium in Dark Horse Legends of the weekend, with Stephen Viger down in 4th. Alfonso Diaz, Joe Dedricks, Alex Bashura and Britt Casey were the non-finishers. Well, what an entertaining race, which started damp and got very wet very quickly. And the first corner and the first lap, in fact, provided the interest. Oh, there was a little touch, you know, on the back of Robert Noeka going into the first corner. Robert just defending and did the job absolutely perfectly well from Marcus Vento. But then the incident started. Number 91 and Britt Casey getting a bit squirrely on the wet paint, exiting turn number 9, and then down at turn 11, our Dark Horse Legends leader, number 33, Alex Bashura for Spark Performance, going around, got out the safety car, and although Alex got the car back to the pit lane for Spark Performance to have a look at it, it went no further. 7th place points at DHL was all that he will take home from this one. And then the battles through the field. Will Lucas, Devin Anderson, Sandy Satullo, Marcus Vento giving us fantastic entertainment again, all whilst Robert Noeka was building the lead again. Sandy Satullo converting his overtaking manoeuvre into a 4th position. Devin Anderson getting on to the podium in 3rd in that red and white number 32. And Will Lucas in his first weekend in Mustang Challenge, having won 7 Mustang Cup races already this year, the same machinery, on different tyres in fairness. Well, he's been a contender all weekend. Big moment for Joe Dedrick as he was trying to make up a position in his category down at turn number 12. Managed to miss the 2 cars ahead of him, threaded the eye of the needle there. That was another safety car that Robert Noeka had to negotiate the restart from, which he did. Then the spin for the number 15 of Alfonso Diaz at turn 19, whilst he was battling for the lead in Dark Horse Legends. That may cost him dear, and there was contact between Will Lucas and Marcus Vento in that battle for last on the last lap for 5th and 6th, and that in fact is under review. I'm a bit breathless after that. Unofficially, the results then, with a couple of things being looked at by race control. Robert Noeka remains perfect on the season. Pole, fastest lap, win. has been the story of 2025 for the number 13 blue and white car and for the driver Robert Nowick. Sam Paley on the podium again in the number 26 car in second from Paley Motorsport. Then Devin Anderson makes up the podium. They will stand on the Formula One podium here at COTA, and let me tell you, that is a very nice thing to happen. Sandy Sotelo and Will Lucas and Marcus Vento were all battling for that 4th, 5th and 6th position pretty much all the way through. They ended up Sotelo, Lucas and Vento. Zachary Lee, what a points haul for him in his challenge for the Dark Horse Legends Championship. He finishes 7th overall, but more importantly, his two major competitors scored badly this weekend, although Tom Tate in 10th position overall came into this weekend in 4th position and will close on 2 of the drivers at least ahead of him. Paolo Salvatore takes another DHL podium ahead of Stephen Viger in 4th in that class. And then the stories: Alfonso Diaz battling for the lead, drops down and loses a potential share of the championship lead. He'll go away a little bit disappointed, I think. Joe Dedricks in the wall at his home race, and Alex Bashura, that was the big casualty, finished 7th in Dark Horse Legends. Britt Casey going off early as well, did not get further than 2 laps into the race. Well, from the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre, we can say congratulations to Robert Nowick, provisionally then the 2025 champion in the Dark Horse category, with a season that so far has been perfect. We move on to our final 2 races of the season. Can Robert continue pole, fastest lap and win 2 more times for an invincible season at the maximum points haul for 2025? Behind him, everyone else fighting for the scraps. And in Dark Horse Legends, it's closed up. Still 3, possibly 4 drivers in the shout as we go to the Roval at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Our journey will be joining me then. I'm John Hindhaugh. Thanks to all of our team here at COTA and at Concord for NASCAR Productions and for Ford Racing. This was the Ford Mustang Challenge at COTA. We'll see you at the track.